I am not old. I will only be 66 years old on my next birthday.
Is T'Pol old enough to work as a spy again? As far as sci-fi franchises are concerned, Star Trek continues to be one of the most popular ones, and in that, one of the most iconic and favorable characters is that of T'Pol. Considering T'Pol's extended possible life in the Star Trek universe, there are rumors that T'Pol might make a comeback. Yes, if reports are true, then Star Trek Odd New Worlds might revisit her. What are your thoughts on this? Sub-Commander T'Pol, portrayed by Jolene Blalock in Star Trek Enterprise, was introduced by the show as a Vulcan High Command observer to Captain Jonathan Archer, played by Scott Bakula, during the first NX-01 Enterprise missions. T'Pol's departure from the Vulcan High Command after Archer's early accomplishments resulted in a Starfleet commission with the rank of Sub-Commander. T'Pol, who was born in the year 2088, was the first Vulcan to serve on a human vessel for a significant amount of time. T'Pol functioned as a member of the Enterprise's Command Triumvirate, which was modeled after the one from Star Trek the original series, along with Captain Archer and Chief Engineer Charles Trip Tucker III, played by Connor Trinneer. T'Pol started her career in Star Trek Enterprise, a 4-season prequel set in the 21st century. Star Trek Enterprise ran from 2001 to 2005. Given that the first season of Enterprise was set in 2151, then what would have been T'Pol's assumed age? Any guesses on that? At this point, T'Pol would have been 63 years old, which is young for a Vulcan. Between 2151 and 2161, T'Pol served for 10 years as a crew member on the United Earth starship Enterprise. Despite resistance and challenges from her Vulcan peers and superiors, T'Pol overcame her basic assumptions about humans, which initially showed that she thought they were too volatile for deep space exploration. There was much that T'Pol and the primarily human crew of the NX-01 Enterprise accomplished to strengthen the bonds of friendship and diplomacy between Earth and Vulcan. Many of the fans have a question: how old is T'Pol to her contemporaries in Star Trek Enterprise? Many of T'Pol's fans also want to compare T'Pol's age with Captain Archer and Trip. At first, T'Pol served as a chaperone on Enterprise in return for star charts and access to the Vulcan database. At first, Captain Archer was not happy with T'Pol's assignment to the Enterprise because he thinks it is a calculated attempt to impede humanity's advancement into space. Trip Tucker, the chief engineer and best friend of Archer, agreed. Trip, who was born in Florida in 2121, was 33 years younger than the sub-commander T'Pol and 9 years younger than Captain Archer. The three most senior officers of Enterprise forged a strong connection over multiple seasons and together created a team dynamic that successfully navigated the early NX-01 through space. Throughout the 4 seasons of the show, T'Pol and Trip developed a sad romance that regrettably ended with Trip's death in the infamous Star Trek Enterprise finale. Jonathan Archer was born in New York, Earth, in 2112, and at the age of 39, he assumed the command of the NX-01 Enterprise. This means that Captain Archer of Star Trek Enterprise was 24 years younger than Sub-Commander T'Pol, his Vulcan science officer. It's crucial to remember, though, that Vulcan and human lifespans differ generally. At this point in the 22nd century, average lifespans are 200 years and 100 years respectively. This would logically imply that even though T'Pol was older than Captain Archer in terms of years, she had not advanced as far in her natural existence. Since filming for Season 3 of Star Trek Odd New Worlds started in December 2023, reports of T'Pol's comeback are being discussed. How much older would T'Pol be in Star Trek Odd New Worlds? In the lead-up to Star Trek the original series, Star Trek Odd New Worlds premiered in 2023 and chronicled the exploits of Captain Christopher Pike, played by Anson Mount, and the youthful crew of the 23rd century USS Enterprise NCC 1701. A direct spin-off of Star Trek Discovery, Star Trek Odd New Worlds takes up residence on a location in the universe chronology just before Captain James T. Kirk, played by William Shatner, commands the Enterprise. Star Trek Odd New Worlds Season 1 is set in 2259, when Captain Pike led the USS Enterprise from 2250 until 2265. T'Pol would be 171 years old at this point, based on these years and the anticipated lifespan of Vulcans. It is possible that T'Pol was still alive and functioning in Star Trek Odd New Worlds, and that she was able to visit Captain Pike's Starship Enterprise. Retconning events from the franchise's canonical history had an impact on characters and later set series in Star Trek Enterprise. Ensign Hoshi Sato, played by Linda Park, was admired by Cadet Nyota Uhuru, played by Celia Rose Gooding, both of whom were linguistic masters. Other officers from Star Trek Enterprise also held important positions in Starfleet history. Jolene Blalock's portrayal of T'Pol in Star Trek Odd New Worlds has precedence in Room because the animated characters from Star Trek Lower Decks have already appeared in a crossover episode. T'Pol was among the first Vulcans to serve on an Earth spaceship, and because of her Vulcan physiology, she was often physically stronger and more resilient than her human co-workers. T'Pol was a member of an away team that investigated the planet that would later be known as Archer 4. The group was exposed to a potent toxin that caused paranoia and was dispersed by pollen in the area. Although T'Pol was not immune to the toxin, she remained composed, while her human companions did not. She spoke in her native tongue, but was still conscious enough to provide an antidote. T'Pol was likewise immune to the non-corporeal wisps that boarded Enterprise in 2152 due to her physiology. The lifeforms were able to take over the bodies of the ship's crew members, but they did not affect T'Pol, who exploited a telepathic link to learn about the beings. The Crossing, later in 2152, when human and even Danubilan crew members started exhibiting compulsive behavior and finally passed out, T'Pol demonstrated that she was impervious to the effects of a trinary star system that Enterprise had come into contact with. When T'Pol was exposed to an extraterrestrial mutagenic virus in the Delphic Expanse in 2153, it altered her DNA to resemble that of a Lokirk, an extinct species. Her immune system, however, showed the illness's growth and kept her from being as impacted by the virus as Jonathan Archer, Malcolm Reed, and Hoshi Sato were. Do you think, besides T'Pol, more new characters will make a comeback in Star Trek Strange New Worlds? Do share your thoughts on this in the comments section. For more interesting stories and updates, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon. Until next time.